I'm sure Gary misspelled Anthony in that deliberately. Just realised that he spelled Anthony with a V. It hasn't got a V in it. Hasn't got a V in it, Gary. So I'm going to need him to redo that opening title sequence for me. Anyway, okay, so it's me, Lance Nielsen from the Outcast Creative. It's our first day of rehearsals tomorrow for False Accounts. So this isn't going to be a long or a late one because I've got to be up early. But we are on stage again in London with False Accounts. It's the true story of the biggest miscarriage of justice in British history. And if you happen to be in London in the first week of June, you can come and see the False Accounts at the OSO Theatre in Barnes. It's actually booking from now, and we're on for 6 shows from the 31st of May to the 4th of June. So it'd be great if you can get along to see it, and I'll be there every night. So do come and say hi if you do. And recently I got to meet up with another YouTuber just up the road from Barnes in Richmond last night, the lady from Positive Fandom, and that was quite nice having a quick catch up. But tonight we're talking all things Streets of Fire, one of my favourite films from the 80s. My number one Walter Hill choice of my Walter Hill stream the other day, which I did with Walter Hill's biographer, Wayne Byrne. You can see that on the channel. The interview is there to be found. But tonight I'm with Movie Guy 24/7, who's probably seen about 10 movies at the cinema since I had him on last week. Here he is. George, good to see you.
10
How are you?
Cinema. Well, I'm not quite that many, but I saw a few. And hey, everybody.
We can talk about those next week, I guess.
Fine by me.
But we're going to talk about one film and one film only today.
Butch and Sundance, the early days.
Yeah. Which is Streets of Fire. You've got your DVD there. I've got my vinyl LP here. Which, I've shown it on a few streams before. And this is the back pictures. We've got there's Diane Lane and the what are they called? They're called the Sorrells, aren't they? Aren't the band called the Sorrells? Yeah. The Sorrells. Now, I did reach out to a couple of the Sorrells to try and get them on the stream. I could only find a couple of them on social media. One of them was actually the guy on the right. That's actually one of the Johnson & Johnsons from Die Hard, Grand Ella Bush. He's retired from acting now. And there's another one of them who runs an acting school, but unfortunately, I didn't hear from them. I did also reach out to Deborah Van Valkenburg, who is also on social media, but no joy. It would have been great to have had a cast member on. I mean, we have technically we've had a cast member on before, because Alan Graff not only choreographed a load of the fights, he trained Michael Paré to do all of his action in the film. But you can spot him in the movie as well if you look, looking like he's about to go to a leather club, as many of the bikers do in this film, because it does have a certain sort of kitsch quality to it. But let's get into it. So it was released in the UK and the United States in 1984. I wasn't aware that it had a cinema release in the UK, because I first saw it on video. But Mark Gallagher, who's one of my students, who was living in Liverpool at the time, and I think he said he might have been working at a cinema like me, he said it was definitely released at the cinema in Liverpool, and it ran for a couple of weeks. And he went to see it numerous times. The UK cinema quad, there's a couple of different variations of it. That's the American version. The UK cinema poster is slightly different. I'm going to guess that might be here somewhere on the artwork here. There's a few different variations of the poster. George, did you see it at the cinema, or was this one you caught on video?
I saw it at the theater, yes. It opened here on June the 1st, 1984, and I believe I went to the matinee on Sunday, June 3rd. It was a toss-up between that and Star Trek 3. Well, Walter Hill won out, so I saw
Star Trek 3. That would be an interesting movie to do a stream about. I've actually got the vinyl soundtrack for that in the other room as well. Nice, got a nice double fold out with the Klingon ship in the middle. William Dafoe has never looked quite so much like Dracula in this particular photo. I mean, we'll talk. The story's pretty basic. It's a kind of old school damsel in distress, hometown girl who's done well. She's made it as a rock and roll star. She comes back to her hometown in another time, another place, because it's set in kind of a parallel universe. That wasn't immediately clear to me, by the way, when I was watching it as a kid. I didn't know that that's exactly what they were going for. And she comes back to do the gig. She gets kidnapped by the bad guy. People call for her old childhood sweetheart to come and rescue her, who's known to be a bit of a hard man. Mayhem and action ensues. And I mean, that's a pretty good summary of the plot. William Dafoe plays the villain of the piece. I guess there's kind of more than one villain in a way. And he's great in the film. Diane Lane plays the heroine of the piece. Remind me of her character name, George?
Ellen Aim.
Ellen Aim and the Attackers. That's right. That's the name of the band, isn't it? Ellen Aim and the Attackers. The music is produced by, is it Rick Steinman, I want to say, the guy who did Meatloaf's?
Well, I was actually going to say that myself. The two songs, Tonight Was What It Means to Be Young and Nowhere Fast, were written by Jim Steinman. Jim Steinman, who people might know for his extensive work with Meatloaf, in particular, the album Bat Out of Hell.
That's, and that came out around the same time. That came out about 82, 83, I think.
Actually, it came out in like 77, that happened.
Oh, did it?
It did.
God, man.
But if you listen to the two songs that I mentioned, you can definitely tell it's Steinman's work. I mean,
no.
Real quality to his music. Or it's quality to his music.
It's got that operatic narrative to the song. There's a story to the song. Those songs are, I mean, those two songs on the album were the two songs that I always used to listen to.
They were the best.
And then it would be the stuff by the Sorrells would be the other songs I would listen to, Countdown to Love and a couple of others. I mean, Diane Lane didn't sing in the movie, did she? She was dubbed.
I don't recall who did it, but her voice was dubbed.
Yeah.
Incidentally, this is the first time she actually played an adult character in a movie. Prior to that, she was this teen actress who is best known for her roles in The Outsiders and Rumblefish.
I remember her in The Outsiders. I only saw Rumblefish once, and God, that was a long time ago. Bill Paxton has a small cameo. There he is, as the owner of a bar.
Clyde.
Yeah.
Clyde, his name was.
This is before he did Aliens. It's actually before he did Weird Science. Yeah, because he had a small cameo in Weird Science. So this would have been one of Bill's first roles, I think.
It was one of his first roles. Prior to this, I know he had a role in a little-known horror picture called Mortuary. I believe it was released in 1983.
I remember that going straight to video in the UK. I can picture the cover, actually.
It's considered 1983, but it came out here in my neck of the woods early 84, and played for a week. I went to see it. That was before I knew who Paxton was. And a few years later, when I watched it again, it was like, holy smokes, Bill Paxton is in this? Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because, I mean, at the time, when I saw it, it wasn't until I watched it later that I was like, oh shit, there's the guy from Aliens, which was quite funny. There's a number of other little cameos, as well as some. We already talked about Grandel LaBouche, who's in the Die Hard movies, who plays one of the Sorrells.
Well, here's something you might not know, Lance. Remember the scene when they're in Torchies and that woman was dancing on the bar?
Yeah, and
that was the dancer from Flashdance. The
Flashdance.
Jennifer Beals.
That's right.
Jennifer Beals didn't do all her dancing. It was that actress. I don't recall her name, but she's the flash dancer.
So she was the body double. Yeah, she was the body double for Beals.
That's correct.
In Flashdance. Did she get credited in Flashdance for that job?
Well, I know it came out at the time that Jennifer didn't do her own dancing, and
Right.
I mean, she didn't become a huge celebrity because of it, but it was known.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I remember that very clearly, actually. And we got Eamon Madigan
as McCoy,
the role of which was originally written for a man,
a middle-aged, heavy-set man.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what part was she originally up for.
She was she was going to go play his sister, but then she said, "Well, why can't I play McCoy? Why not have a female action heroine in this?"
Yeah, the sister was Deborah Van Valkenburg's part. That's right. Yeah, so it's her suggestion. Now that's the Sorrells singing. I'm not sure that the four actors sung, but I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that Robert Towne, who's one of them, wasn't he one of the original lineup of five guys named Mo?
I'm not sure. I don't know what Five Guys Named Mo is.
It's a stage production with this kind of style of music about a sort of all black barbershop. I want to say quartet, but I don't know what the five version of that is. 5-piece band, I guess. And it was, I think the original lineup was created by one or two of the actors who were actually in it, and it was a very successful show. Ran both in the West End of London for a couple of years or so, and did well on Broadway, I think, and had a sort of international tour. I have a feeling Robert Towne might have been.
His name's actually Robert Townsend. Robert Towne is a screenwriter.
Sorry, Robert Townsend. Not to be confused with Robert Towne, the screenwriter. Yeah, Robert Townsend, I think, might have been one of the guys who ended up in Five Guys Named Mo. Very young Rick Moranis, who apparently was one of the more serious actors on the set. And I think he'd done a couple of things, whereas Diane, Michael, and Amy were pretty green.
He was primarily known for SCTV, the comedy sketch series from Canada.
Right.
It's the same show that introduced American audiences to John Candy, Eugene Levy. Rick Moranis was on that show, and he used to do a recurring character with, I can't think of the other guy's name, but they used to be these guys from the Great White North, Canada. They made a movie about them, Strange Brew.
Strange Brew, I remember Strange Brew.
Well, it was Bob and Doug McKenzie. Rick Moranis was, who the hell was he? Hang on just a second, I'm sorry.
I'll just say thank you to the 5 people watching, and if you're one of our new subscribers, I really appreciate it. Do spread the word, spread the stream, and going to be doing a lot more of these.
Okay, the other guy was Dave Thomas. Rick Moranis played Bob McKenzie, and Dave Thomas was Doug McKenzie. These two brothers from Canada, they're obsessed with beer. They say A lot, like, let's do it, eh? And
yeah, no, I remember it. I remember it very well.
Called each other hosers, whatever that means. But yeah, that's what Rick Moranis was known for SCTV. So seeing him doing something that wasn't a comedy, that was that's interesting.
So I want to talk about this shot for a second, because a lot of people won't know this, but this was all a set, and I have to admit, when I watched it originally, I thought, oh, they kind of went to Chicago and, you know, filmed under the L, or like a section of it that wasn't used or whatever. And there's a very similar set to this in the movie The Untouchables. And I did wonder whether any of this set got reused and redecorated for The Untouchables. But anyway, this shot looks like it's at night time, and it's obviously doubling for night. But this is actually shot, this is filmed during the day, because all of this set was covered by a huge tarpaulin to make it double for night, so that they didn't have to do night shoots, which are grueling, because in LA it's very hard to sleep during the day because of the heat and aircon and all the rest of it. And Walter Hill didn't want his crew to have to go through however many weeks of night shoots, so he made sure that there was money in the budget. I think this thing cost like £500,000 to drape over the set, and at one point there was a storm and a big section of it came off. So entertaining times, but for the most part it was successful, and they were able to shoot and light the set with this tarpaulin over. And you can see that a lot of this lighting that they've added and stuff, these lamps and things, is all actually part of the intentional lighting for the set, because there's no rig above it where the lights could go, because the tarpaulin is there, you know. So I always thought that was pretty interesting that they did that. There's another shot of Michael Paré. I read a lot of stories about how they wanted Harrison Ford to do it, and Harrison Ford said no. But when I've watched the interviews, and that's been brought up, and Walter Hill mentions it, he says that Ford was never really a serious contender. I mean, he may have been one of the people who read the script, but I don't think the discussions with him went very far. Have you heard anything different about that?
I was looking at the Wikipedia entry this morning. Yeah, there were a few other actors up for the role, but they ultimately wanted to go with younger actors. From my understanding, what they wanted was the characters. He wanted them to seem like they were all teenagers.
Right.
So that was his notion. So he went with Michael Paré, who was younger and not so well known at that point. At that point, he had only done Eddie and the Cruisers. Mm-hmm. And that didn't hit its peak of popularity. It bombed in theaters. Didn't really.
Yeah, that went straight to video over here.
It became a smash when it premiered on cable. Suddenly, everybody was into Eddie and the Cruisers.
Yeah, they did a sequel to it, didn't they?
Yeah, Paré was in that too. Eddie and the Cruisers too. Eddie Lives. I only saw it the one time. It really wasn't that good.
Yeah, because, I mean, basically, didn't he come back, but there wasn't really a satisfactory reason as to why he left in the first place?
I barely remembered. I just know he made a comeback. He was trying to keep his identity secret. I think that was the gist of the plot. Should he reveal himself as Eddie? Something like that.
Yeah.
One time, it didn't impress me. I haven't watched it again since. That was 1989 that I watched it, so we're talking more than 30 years ago. I can't tell you anything else.
Well, maybe we should do an Eddie and the Cruisers and Eddie and the Cruisers 2 stream. That could be an interesting one, because I've never seen the sequel.
I actually have them both on DVD. I'd watch those again, and we could do that at some point.
Yeah. Blunt Philly Review says, loving the stream, never seen the movie. We'll have to check it out. I mean, listen, dude, you got to see the movie. And RRTNZ, hi Lance and George, good movie, but its surrealism didn't gel with audiences. Great concept, great music, good actors, but something not quite right about them dueling with sledgehammers. I mean, that
was cool.
I like that scene. It gelled with me. I loved the film. I wasn't one of these people that kind of got into the film later. I loved the film. I went straight out and bought the soundtrack like the next day, because I wanted to listen to those songs when I got up in the morning and put my headphones on, and you know how you used to do back in the day. You'd have your own music video, right? When you put your headphones on and you'd listen to your favorite soundtrack, you would have your own music video to that track that would then play in your head, and you'd get lost in that world. And the Streets of Fire soundtrack was definitely one of those ones that I felt that affection for.
It's an amazing soundtrack, and I too was a fan of the movie when I first saw it.
Yeah.
It wasn't one of those things that had to grow on me. I kind of, even at that age, I was like, 16? I kind of got the idea that this wasn't, well, like it says at the beginning, another time, another place.
Yeah.
This was a different universe where the 50s never quite died out, and you got blend in elements of the 80s, such as when they were in that one part of the city and everybody was all punked out.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of neat. It's like, okay, so the 50s never died out, but we're talking a whole blend of eras here. So that was really neat.
Yeah, I mean that was something that I kind of appreciated later, but I was trying to work out where the film was at the time, and you had that Another Time, Another Place, but I was quite young. I was quite young when I saw it, and but one of the things, of course, I've learned since is that the decision in the film not to kill anybody is probably the only Walter Hill action film where no one dies. I mean, you know, Brewster's Millions is not an action film, so, but and that decision wasn't made until they were in the middle of shooting. They were about Alan Graff said they were about a week in when there was a massive rewrite, and he said in the script originally people were dying left and right, and Cody was killed a lot of people, and Walter Hill said no, in this rock and roll fantasy, because it's like a stage opera, no one gets killed here. In this world people don't get killed, people don't die violently, so that gave it a very comic book feel, but it doesn't feel like a film without action.
It's got plenty of action.
Yeah.
God, that's that. Did you know?
And the action that's in it is good as well. This is a still from one of the action scenes, and unknowns to some of our viewers, might be that one of the pilots from Top Gun is actually in this car.
Rick Rossovich.
Yeah, who played Slider, Iceman's co-pilot.
Did you notice who the other actor was?
It's the black actor from. Did he turn up in They Live or no?
Poltergeist.
Yeah, Poltergeist, that's it.
He was in Poltergeist.
Yeah, he was another actor I tried to get to come on here tonight, actually.
Lance, I'll bet you didn't notice a certain cameo from an actress who was in another Walter Hill film.
I'm trying to think. Well, we've got Amy Madigan, Deborah Van Valkenburg. Oh, what about, do you mean the young rock star chick?
No, not Elizabeth Daly. Remember the scene where they were trying to take this, when, what's his name? Cody was trying to get the train back to where he came from, and he was talking to that train conductor, the black woman?
Oh, I know, that's Lynn Thigpen, who was the voice of the radio in The Warriors.
That's right. That's exactly who that was.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so sad. She died quite young from cancer.
Yes, she did.
And one of her last really good roles was Lean on Me with
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. She's like the angry parent in that. But she was a first-class actress.
Totally.
And she did a lot of theatre. Good to see you, Sir Clueless, by the way. Thanks for popping in. William Dafoe showing off his dental work there.
Now, here's something I wanted to know about Walter Hill films. Maybe you talked about it in your broadcast with his biographer. The name Torchy's shows up in a lot of his movies. Torchy's was the name of the redneck bar in 48 Hours. It was the name of the bar Richard Pryor and John Candy went to in Brewster's Millions, and it was the bar in the Battery in Streets of Fire. Now, I'm wondering, does that have some kind of special significance for Hill?
I'm looking at this is the biography. I do recommend it. I wonder if it's based on somewhere, or if Torchy is maybe a person.
That's what I'm thinking.
Why don't you have a quick Google on that, man? While we're
yeah, I'll do that.
Have a quick Google on that, see if anything comes up. Now this is an interesting shot because in the backdrop here, these buildings look very big and very real. And I'm wondering, you know, is this a portion of the enclosed set, and is that then part of the production studio, or is this on location and we're actually somewhere else? Difficult to know from this still alone. That I think would probably all be part of the enclosed set, but it might actually be on location. Oh, now this is a funny cameo in the film. This is Ed Begley Jr., who's only in the film quite briefly. Our viewers might know him better from the film Best in Show, where he is the head of the hotel that hosts the Mayflower Dog Show in Best in Show, and he's a regular collaborator with Christopher Guest and Michael McKean. I mean, man, here he's completely young. He's got a full head of hair. He's a great actor. I love Ed Begley Jr. He's just really funny in everything he's in. This shot is definitely the set. That's a reverse of where we were looking down before.
Okay, I don't see any explanation as to the whole Torchies thing, but apparently that name also showed up in The Driver.
Right, that's interesting. So it goes right back to his very first film then.
So I found that interesting. And speaking of Torchies, remember the scene in 48 Hours when Eddie Murphy busted that redneck bar and questioned that one guy, frisked him?
Yeah, that was Torchies, right? That was Torchies.
That was in Torchies.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
That particular actor, John Dennis Johnston, shows up in Streets of Fire as the mechanic from whom Cody buys that big gun.
Oh, yeah.
Same actor.
There's a couple of shots here that are very iconic Walter Hill shots. Somebody walking, with fire behind them. That you will see that same shot in Last Man Standing. I'm pretty sure there's a shot similar to this in Extreme Prejudice, although the guy's running for his life. Now, this shot, I think, would have been on location because this is where they go and film the battery. And I remember they went and filmed... I think Alan Graff said they did like a week in Chicago somewhere.
Yeah, they did do some of it in Chicago.
Yeah, I suspect this
subway stuff, the train stuff.
Oh, was it the train stuff? Okay.
A lot of the train stuff was done in Chicago. There's a whole thing on Wikipedia about it, the stations they used and everything.
Yeah, I mean this could be one of the back alleys of the studio lot dressed up, because those could easily be studio production warehouses. There he is on his cool bike. Now, are you a bike guy? Can you tell me if that's a Harley? I don't think it is a Harley, is it?
I have no idea. A motorcycle's a motorcycle to me.
Ooh, don't say that to a Harley Davidson fan. If anybody in the chat knows the type of bike that he rode. That's Dave Alvin is actually a singer, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. That's in the sort of the One Man Stud. That's the One Man Stud song, isn't it?
One Bad Stud.
Yep. One Bad Stud. That was it. Yeah. Rick Moranis demonstrating why red bow ties have not come back in fashion. And one of the things I really like about the two big stage numbers which bookend the film, that open and close the film, apart from the songs, is the choreography of the movement of the people on stage. And you've got that great bit in Tonight Is What It Means to Be Young, where there's that big flash of light and the guy does that like behind her with his guitar at the same time as she puts her hand in the air, and you've got to cut to a reverse shot from behind and then back to the front again, and it's all just so well done. I mean, it's very, very music video of the time, but again, William Dafoe auditioning for Dracula, saying, "Please give me Dracula. Look at me. I should play Dracula in this photo." I don't think Amy Madigan was married to Ed Harris at this point in time.
I'm not sure.
Now, this man has just mentioned a film. I'm going to do a stream on this. My science project. This has come up a couple of times recently. I have a feeling this is the chap that I, when we had a little pub meet the other night, I think this might be the chap that I met in the pub.
Actually, Amy Madigan married Ed Harris in 1983. So apparently by the time of the film's release, they were married, and they're still married.
Wow. I remember seeing them on stage together. My Science Project's a great film. You must have seen that, right, with John Stockwell?
I did. Fisher Stevens, Danielle von Zernick. I've seen it a couple of times.
I think it's an underrated gem. I absolutely love that movie. The whole movie is on YouTube. I don't think it's out on Blu-ray, sadly.
I'm kind of partial to Real Genius myself. Came out the same summer, dealt with subject matter.
I rewatched Real Genius recently. It was funnier than I remembered it, but still not as funny as it should be. But I do love that scene with the popcorn in the house, though.
Oh, that was cool.
Yeah. There, now there's Deborah Van Valkenburg.
There she is. Also from the Warriors. That's right.
Yeah. And did she pop up in any other Walter Hill movies?
I can find that out.
I'm curious to know, because I can't remember her in any others. But I'd be surprised if Walter didn't use her.
Well, let's take a peek. I've got her IMDb. I'm sorry.
It's funny that Bachelor Party's been mentioned, because Bachelor Party, which was released in the UK in '84, it was released in the UK as a double bill with Revenge of the Nerds. And I remember us going to see that, and again we had to lie about our age to get in. And man, that was a good night of movies. Me and my buddy Martin, who I'm still great friends with.
That's a good double feature, and no,
It was a good double feature, especially as we were like two giggling, like 15 and 16-year-old teenagers who bullshitted that we were 18 in order to get in, because both the movies were 18 in the UK.
To answer the question, Warriors and Streets of Fire are the only Walter Hill movies that Deborah Van Valkenburg has been in.
That's interesting. What year was she acting until, or is she still doing?
Still active. Oh, somebody answered the question about the motorcycle.
They did. Harley Davidson Electric Glide.
All right, thank you, Blunt Philly Reviews. That's awesome.
Yeah. Also, now I understand why that film was called Electric Glide in Blue.
Deborah's last film, no, the last work, some TV series called Hellstrom. She appeared in 4 episodes of it. Hellstrom, Helstrom. I don't know what that is.
So Marine Jahan is the lady on there she is on the sort of dancing on doing the Coyote Ugly thing before it became cool. And this is the lady we are saying was also the body double for Jennifer Beals. Now here's an interesting thing. Yeah, one of the body doubles for Jennifer Beals in the film Flashdance. So there was more than one. Marine Jahan is actually a French dancer and actress. Jahan's contribution was not listed in the film's opening or ending credits. Viewers felt they had been deceived, and they were watching Jahan's dancing and bicycle riding, not Beals. Simpson and Bruckheimer, producers of the film, first claimed they weren't attempting to conceal the use of doubles, then later claimed Jahan was not credited because Paramount Pictures shortened the closing credits. That is such a heap of horseshit. That is just bullshit. It's one of the big issues I've got with Spielberg is why has he not, when he went to all the trouble of doing the CGI stuff with the special edition of E.T., which honestly I didn't think needed tampering with, why did they not install the credits of the BMX stunt team that did all the cycling? They are not credited in the film, and they bloody well should be. And I don't understand why he has not done that.
That restored version of E.T. was wrong for a lot of reasons.
The whole thing with the shotgun,
that was ridiculous.
I mean, I get it. It was like, well, I want my kids to be able to watch a film with guns in, but you also want your kids to know that guns are bad, right? Because E.T. says guns bad. I'm gonna fly the kids out of here. That's why he flies. I mean, we should do a separate stream about that. But I found his reasoning, the logic of his reasoning, was really at fault, and it just didn't hold up.
And the movie just didn't look right. I mean, I went to see it at a special advanced screening, that restored version, and I just sat there thinking, this is really not the movie I watched at 14. This is not the movie I grew up with.
We certainly didn't need to see a CG, E.T. I mean, I didn't mind.
But what really ticked me off, now there were scenes that he cut from the movie.
Yeah.
Like there's a scene of Elliot in the principal's office, and for some reason the chair is levitating. Why did he not restore that scene? I would have liked to have known what that was about.
Yeah, that is annoying. Kissing in the rain is a big thing.
Oh yeah.
In this film, and I remember saying to my first girlfriend who I watched this movie with, I said, next time it rains, we got to run in the garden and have a smooch, and we did exactly that, actually.
That's cool.
Yeah, I remember a couple of people. See, I swear that this corner if that building was redecorated, see the house behind it, the facade behind the diner. Okay. I swear that could be the same corner building set that kid comes out with the suitcase going, Mister, you left your bag behind on The Untouchables.
You know, it very well could be.
Yeah, and they shot that. Now, The Untouchables was filmed in, I think it was filmed towards the end of 85, going into 86.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and it was released in 87.
Summer of 87.
Yeah, so it would have been shot in 86. I mean, it's not impossible that the skeleton of this set was still intact on the backlot. I'm sure it's all been torn down now.
Probably.
Or they may have just built a completely new one, but I really feel like that might be the same. Is that a Winchester rifle?
Could be.
I'm not an expert.
I know as much about guns as I do motorcycles.
Now, this is a great shot of the Sorrells, who are they become Ellen Ames' support act inadvertently because they help her out, and they become Billy Fish's, Ellen Ames' manager and agent and boyfriend.
Featuring a very young Michael T. Williamson, who people remember as Bubba.
And he was in Navy SEALs as well, wasn't he?
Ooh, Navy SEALs.
Didn't he play the black guy in Navy SEALs that got killed, and then the woman got upset because she didn't get the flag? Isn't that the same actor?
I'd have to look. It's been a while since I've watched Navy SEAls, which I really should rewatch given the connection to Clerks.
And is that the same actor that's also in Con Air, who needs the shot? Nicholas, he needs the insulin shot.
Okay, first of all, in Navy SEALs, I believe it was Dennis Haysbert.
It was Dennis Haysbert. I'm getting them mixed up. Yeah,
that's what was the other question you were asking?
There's a guy in Con Air who needs the insulin shot, but I think I'm getting.
That might be Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, Dave Chappelle's the one who's running along and ends up on the intake of the plane.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. No, Michael T. Williamson, he was in Con Air, and I'm pretty sure he's the guy you said. I
wasn't totally crap then. I got one of them right. Yeah, so he was in Con Air. This filmed the same year as Ghostbusters.
It came out the week before Ghostbusters here in the U.S.
Yeah. And I think Moranis would have probably shot this first. And Moranis' role wasn't that big. He didn't have that many scenes on Streets of Fire. So I'm going to guess that he was probably done in a couple of weeks on this movie if they condensed him together on the schedule. Grand Elder Bush, Tony Jackson, and Robert Tan. I'm curious to see. So we know Michael Williamson. He's probably got the biggest acting chop credits of the four of them. I'm curious to see what everybody else has done. So Robert Townsend, I knew I'd seen him in other things. He's now a director. He's got 47 directing credits.
Well, his biggest movie here in the U.S., it most likely was The Five Heartbeats.
The Five Heartbeats, right? And that's what I was thinking about when it was five guys named Mo. The Five Heartbeats, yeah.
That was a very good movie.
It was a good film. That's got the guy who was in. That'd be a good film to do a stream back. That's the lad who was in V, right? Wasn't he the one of the two brothers that was in V?
Let me take a look real quick. I was looking at Stoney Jackson.
Well, one of the guy who was in Poltergeist, who was in the Sorrells, was also played the Doctor brother in the original miniseries of V. He gets shot by the visitor soldier with the laser gun.
Richard Lawson was not one of the Sorrells. He was the cop.
He was the cop. That's right. Sorry, yeah, but he was in Streets of Fire. That's the same guy. And then this actor, Michael Wright, he was in V, and he played his brother. He played Richard Lawson's brother in V.
Let's see. Robert Townsend. He also did so he was in Streets of Fire, but the movie that first, brought him to people's attention was an independent film called Hollywood Shuffle.
I remember that. Saw that at the cinema. Here's the soundtrack, guys. For those people watching, I showed it earlier at the beginning of the stream. This is the original vinyl. Purchased it in 1984.
Yeah, he also played opposite what's his name, Denzel Washington in The Mighty Quinn. Do you remember The Mighty Quinn?
One of the five heartbeats is Leon as well. That's interesting.
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, on the left there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get back to
Streets of Fire.
Get back to Streets of Fire. But so looking at the careers, so Robert Townsend, big director, done pretty well for himself, still directing.
The Meteor Man is actually pretty good if you've not seen it.
I have seen Meteor Man. That was not a bad comedy. Grandel LaBouche, you guys would know, he's at the back there, slightly out of focus. He was one half of Johnson & Johnson on Die Hard. We talked about him earlier, and he's gone on to a relatively successful career.
He had a small role in Exorcist 3. I remember that.
Yeah, and I mean, he's still acting. You still see him. No. He was acting up until the early 2000s. That's right, and he's now gone into property development. Stoney Jackson is the guy in the middle, I think. Yeah, that's a pretty moody look there. And he was working. He's still working. Television, film credits, various things. Played a referee in Modern Family. That's quite interesting.
He was in Trespass, another Walter Hill film.
That's right. One of the gangsters, I believe.
I believe you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, there he is in Trespass on the left, sporting, once again, quality fashions, but that's 1992, so we're slipping into the next... and there's Devereaux White, who was also in Die Hard. So it's quite funny how there's all these connections between these films.
Oh my God! I'm looking at Stoney Jackson's list of credits. He was in Roller Boogie also. Remember that?
Roller Boogie. Oh my God! I just watched that about 8 weeks ago. I remembered it quite fondly as a kid. I watched it again. It was terrible. It was so bad.
So bad it's great, right?
Yeah, I mean, so bad that it was kind of fun. And I think the lead in it, the lad who was, he was kind of obviously gay.
His name Greg Bradford, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of rumors going around about what happened to him.
Jim Bray was his name, and oh yeah, he's what you said, yeah.
Well, I mean, either he kind of just decided he didn't like the limelight and changed his name and disappeared, but the other thing is that he may have died during the AIDS epidemic in the 80s.
It's easy enough to find out.
It's not. I've tried. It's not easy to find out. Everybody's been trying to find out, and he's completely disappeared. It's like the I don't know if you remember the Bronx Warriors and Bronx Warriors 2.
Yeah, Mark Gregory.
Mark Gregory. He's another one that everybody thought had died.
He did die.
Well, now they say that, but somebody reckons they found him. So I don't know that it's been confirmed that he's dead. I don't think you'll see a date of death on his IMDb, on Mark Gregory's IMDb.
Seems to me that I heard somewhere a while back that his death in 2013 was actually confirmed. And yes, on IMDb.
He died in 2013. So okay,
that's what I heard.
Right, but back in the day, everybody thought, because he completely disappeared from the he completely disappeared from the limelight. Nobody in the Italian film world knew where he was, so he still died pretty young, 2013. That's sad, man. Because I know somebody traced him, and he was working in realty. Oh God, man, he committed suicide. It says here, died penniless while living the life of a recluse in Castor Manua, just outside Rome. That's absolutely awful.
That is sad.
Yeah, God, I did not know that. I mean, you see, so when I did that search for him, that would have been previous to 2013, because there was a lot of people trying to find him, because, of course, his films were having a bit of a resurgence. he could have gone around conventions and made some money. Signed pictures and all of that kind of thing.
You should actually do a podcast about 1990, the Bronx Warriors.
Well, I think it would be better to do a stream about all those movies that came out between 1980 and let's say 1992.
Okay, that's cool.
There's quite a few of them. Bill Paxton's in the background there. This watching the fight. This is the famous fight with the sledgehammers at the end. More Kissing in the Rain, always good.
Lee Ving.
Now Lee Ving, he's another one I tried to find for the stream. I believe he's still acting. Are you any the wiser on him?
I could look.
And that's one of the stunt doubles on the left.
I haven't heard anything from Lee Ving or of Lee Ving.
There are more fake social media profiles for Lee Ving on Twitter and Facebook than any other actor that I've ever looked up.
Okay, it seems that he sporadically showed up in a few things over the years, and the last major thing I remember him being in was 1991, The Taking of Beverly Hills.
I haven't seen that.
Pretty much a bad Die Hard knockoff.
Now, Mark Alani says the song from Streets of Fire was in the Air soundtrack. Which song was that, George? Because you've seen Air.
Huh, that's interesting. I have to look.
I don't remember there being a song from Streets. There must have been, but I don't remember that. Don't remember it.
It's possible because, like I said in one of our previous,
it wasn't Tonight Is What It Means to Be Young or Nowhere Fast.
No, like I said in our previous discussions,
I can dream about you. Yeah. Thank you for that. I can dream about you. That's right. It was.
Yeah, the director went with songs rather than a traditional score. He went with songs from the 80s, and now that I remember.
I've seen it since we last spoke. That's a great shot of Diane Lane.
Oh yeah.
There's something I like. There's something very period correct about those microphones as well that kind of conjure up that era of the Big Bopper and Richie Valens and Motown and rock and roll and just that sort of whole era.
The whole 50s vibe. I mean, they got that down. Did you see all those awesome vintage automobiles, the Studebaker?
Yeah. The production design went all out. I was never quite sure about this sort of these leather waders that William Dafoe's character wore in the final battle.
Those garbage bag overalls he was wearing.
Yeah, that did look a bit pantomime for me.
It looked like it would be something out of that Al Pacino movie, Cruising.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it looked like they went into a bar and got a load of people from a bar like that and just got them to come on set. That's a great shot of Diane Lane. And there's Elizabeth Daly. Yeah. And of course, she did that song for the Better Off Dead movie.
She did.
And she's singing it at the high school disco. And it's funny because I remember piecing it very quickly that she was in this movie, she was in that movie. And I was thinking, she's kind of got a cool look and she can act and she can obviously sing. Why are we not seeing more of her in films?
She was also in Valley Girl, if you recall that film.
I can't recall it. I think I saw it.
1983 teen romance. Nicolas Cage and Deborah Foreman were the stars. It was a pretty good movie.
If I saw it, it would have been on video, but I can't remember it.
She was also in Bad Dreams, if you remember that horror movie.
I do remember that.
She was that one girl in the psych ward who kind of quiet, I guess.
But she's got, like, if I remember rightly, she's only got a handful of credits and then she kind of disappeared.
I think you're right. I haven't seen her in anything in like a really long time.
Does she still sing? I mean, does she still kind of like do little concerts or gigs or whatever?
Let's see first of all, let's look at her profile.
Curious.
Well, she actually does a voice in Rugrats.
Now that'll pay well because that's a big series that's gone onto syndication all over the world, isn't it? So
apparently it's extremely popular. It had a couple of movies. Let's see.
I have to say I do like Defoe's coat in this shot. And this must have been one of the few times where they actually allowed the tarpaulin to be removed. Because it was daytime.
They allowed what to be removed?
The tarpaulin.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Covered up the set so they could film at night time. Well, they could film in the day for night, sorry. Amy Madigan again. And funnily enough, Amy Madigan has had this haircut in about 90% of her films. It's like this haircut or very similar to this haircut.
I'd say she looks the same in almost every movie.
Yeah, there's the two cops with Rick Rossovich.
And Rick Rossovich.
Yeah, Rossovich he's also no longer acting and I believe has moved into realty, as a lot of people do. But he did great interview for the I think it was the 25th or 30th anniversary Top Gun DVD or Blu-ray release, something like that. Okay. There was a great interview with him on it, and he's very he's quite self-effacing about how he behaved. He admits he behaved quite badly and was a bit full of himself when he was on that movie, but that totally worked for his character. Richard Lawson is still acting, I believe. I think he's still up to various things. And here we have Paul Mones, right?
Paul Mones, yeah.
Is it Mones? And he was the bad guy in Tough Turf, which came out around the same time, but would have shot before this, I think.
I think you're right.
Well, actually, it might have shot afterwards because maybe he got the part in Tough Turf as a result of this. Tough Turf came on video in the UK, I think in 86, but I think it was released in 85.
Yes, it came out in 85 in America.
Yeah. And I think we got it on video probably about 6 months later. Valley Girl, or I remember as a young Nick Cage. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at Paul Mones' profile right now. Apparently, he's not really acting anymore too much. He does a lot of writing.
I looked him up when I saw Tough Turf.
He wrote the screenplay for Double Team.
Interesting.
Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dennis Rodman, the power duo.
Now, if you look in that photograph, we can see, look at the back. That is stuntman Alan Graff.
Oh, wow.
At the back there. Yeah, as one of the bikers. I remember that is definitely Alan. And he's probably the one that one of the ones that storms on the stage, I would imagine.
I think, he did. Yeah, I remember.
Great sequence. This thing with the bullhorn when all the bikes then appear behind him and his kind of army arrives, I totally nicked that idea for a script that I was writing set in Africa called Border Border, which is the name of the bikes that people use for taxis. And it was about this tourist that gets ripped off, and then this good border tries to help him get his passport and his money back. It's all set in one day.
Okay.
And the end scene ends up being very similar to this. Another one of my many unmade scripts and treatments. That would have been Diane Lane's production headshot, I would imagine, for the time. But as the character, though, I'm fairly sure. Don't think her production headshot would have been quite as over glamorous as that. Her acting headshot, I mean. And there she is in full song. So the film, there's lots of reasons given why the film didn't do that well at the time. But I think the main one is that it release the same week as Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Came out I think a week after Indiana Jones.
Right.
Same weekend Star Trek 3 and the weekend before Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I mean, that's horrible timing.
Well, nobody knew how successful Ghostbusters were going to be.
No, they didn't. They
expected it to do pretty well, but no one expected how well it would do, and it just killed it at the box office.
Yeah, and people went back to see it again and again. I remember I went 3 times.
Me too.
Yeah.
3 times.
I was like, came back and I was like, Dad, you got to go and see this film. You got to go and see this film. And I just moaned at him and I said, you have to see this movie. And he sort of reluctantly kind of went with me. And he was howling all the way through Ghostbusters. And there's the lady who's the dancer from.
I remember when I saw Streets of Fire, I recommended it to a guy from school. And so he went to see it. And he came back, he's like, George, what the hell did you send me to see? And, it's like, well, what's there not to get? I mean, it was a cool action movie, but he's like, I didn't get it. What was with all that weird 50s stuff? Blah, 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 blah. Well, we're talking about high school here, so.
I'll tell you what, I think if it had come out the same year as Grease, as the kind of the dirty brother of the movie Grease, I reckon it would have been a massive hit if it had come out that year. Because people would have, yeah, I think so, because people would have sort of like wanted more, and then this would have been like the gritty version, because you could almost believe that this exists in that world. It's very of that world, but without the songs, but then with songs, just not with people bursting into song. Yeah, I think if it had come out, like, I mean, Grease was 77, wasn't
78.
it? Same year as Close Encounters of the Third Kind in the UK. I remember that.
Well, Close Encounters is 7. Again, I'm going with America's release years.
Yeah.
Close Encounters was 77. Grease was 78.
Yeah. So we got Close Encounters after you.
Of course.
And I remember, because I can picture the ads in the paper with the Grease is the word thing next to the Close Encounters poster. And that wouldn't have been on the re-release. And there he is, the man himself, Walter Hill.
All right.
On the set, the general. Yeah, what a great set that would have been.
He made some pretty great movies back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, here's his key production team. I'm guessing this is probably a shot of him with his heads of department. Yeah, Andrew Laszlo, that's his DOP. And Andrew Laszlo is a great cinematographer. I think he passed away not that long ago, or within the last 10 years or so, something like that. Yeah.
I'm surprised Ry Cooder isn't in that picture. He frequently does the music on Walter Hill's films.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have been there on the set.
Oh, true.
Very, very rare that you have the very rare that you have.
I don't see Larry Gross there either. Larry,
no,
he a frequent collaborator of Wil Hill.
He was one of Walter Hill's, I want to say, regular producers, if I remember rightly.
Okay.
All right, he said the only thing I remember at Tough Turf was Leah Thompson gets them out. Was Leah Thompson in Tough Turf?
Nope. The main actresses were Kim Richards and Olivia Barish.
Yeah, I don't remember.
She was not in that, no.
Yeah, even having a cameo in I don't think she did.
Oh, I'd remember that.
You might be thinking of Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck is awesome.
Well, you see, I haven't seen that since back in the day. Jeffrey Jones was the villain. There's a Japanese poster there, which is pretty interesting. I haven't seen that in a really, really long time.
I saw it 3 times in the 2 weeks it played at American theaters.
I saw it twice, I have to admit. And I don't know. I mean, God, I don't think that film would sit well now. You rate your films out of 4, but if you had to give this a rating on IMDb out of 10, what would you give it?
For me,
that's the British poster.
Well, I'd give it 3.5 out of 4 stars. I'd say it's a solid movie.
So that'd be
the
like
narrative,
that.
The narrative doesn't always hold up. You can tell that it struggles a bit, but overall, I mean, in terms of cinematography and the music and just all the production design, I mean, it is an impressive film, from an artistic standpoint. And I think it was made probably ahead of its time. People weren't equipped to understand what was going on. Nowadays, because the Marvel has introduced the idea of multiverses, perhaps it would go over well now. People are like, okay, a multiverse. Yeah, all right, I see. So it's
Yeah,
really maybe. That's just speculation. All I know is I saw it and I got it. It's like, all right, I understand what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic tale. So I mean, I don't think the kind of it's in a universe that's like ours, but not quite like ours.
A little bit, but the 50s never died out. That's
yeah.
The main premise there.
This is the collector's edition Blu-ray. Do you have this one? Because I don't.
I don't have any Blu-rays. I never converted.
I thought I got I was looking because if I could spend money on a Blu-ray, which is pretty rare at the minute because I can't really afford to buy films, and I've got so many already. This is my third version of Streets of Fire that I purchased. I had the original VHS when it came out for $9.99. I bought the DVD when it came out, and now I've got the Blu-ray. But it's got some special features on it, but it's not got. I don't think it's got quite as many as the Shout Factory version. And I went on Shout's website, and this version is no longer available. So
there's not too many extra features on the DVD.
No.
Filmmaker's bio, the trailer, a few production notes. I always look at deleted scenes.
Well, there isn't any of those. I mean, what's great about the Blu-ray version, and I'm sure it'll be on this version as well, is there's a relatively recent interview with the cast, and Michael Paré takes part. I think Amy Madigan took part. Walter Hill's on there, of course. I can't remember if William Dafoe was on there. They were missing. They were missing somebody, and I can't remember who was missing it. It was either Dafoe or Diane Lane was missing, but there was enough of them that took part that I thought great, and it would have been nice to have seen some of the other supporting casts being interviewed. Rick Moranis was definitely not on it.
He retreated from all that stuff years ago after his wife died. He decided he chose to take care of his family, so he's completely out of the public eye now.
That's interesting. Yeah, I kind of what happened there? Was that cancer? Was it or?
I think his wife has succumbed to cancer. Yes, I do believe that's the case.
That's awful, man.
And the last thing I recall him being involved with, he did one of the voices in the Disney film Brother Bear, like 20 years ago.
Right.
So, God bless Rick. I mean, taking care of his family.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and I'm sure he probably had enough in the bank to, and then take on the parent role and be there for all the parent things, I think
with all the successful movies he was involved with, I think he's not hurting for money. If he invested it wisely, which I'm sure he did, he's pretty well off.
Yeah. God bless you, Mr. Moranis.
Totally.
And there's an unrelated publicity photo.
What the hell is Corey Feldman doing in Streets of Fire?
That's apparently a photograph of him taken at, I think, a film screening of Streets of Fire.
Oh, well, okay, that would make sense.
Difficult to tell from his face whether he enjoyed it or not. But, yeah. So, there we go. So that's Streets of Fire. Anyone that hasn't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's an awesome film, and actually, maybe what didn't work for it back then is what makes it hold up well now, because it's in this slightly kind of hard to pin down where are we world, but the 50s, all the fashion of the 50s and the vehicles and everything from that era is very in at the minute. People love all that stuff, so I think. Anybody who's into that era will love this movie. Anybody who likes music by Jim Steinman, so anything by Meatloaf, you're going to love this movie. If you're a fan of Diane Lane, you are definitely going to love this movie. Amy Madigan too. I've got to say, of the actors, I think the weakest actor in the film, and I hate myself for saying this, but I think the weakest actor in the film is Moranis. His delivery of his lines it felt like he was on a different movie, and I'm not sure if that's because he was coming from a different, if he was coming from a TV show or where he was coming from, but
well, I was reading in Wikipedia, Michael Perry commented that Rick Moranis as a comedian has a different idea of acting than, well, other actors.
Yeah.
So maybe that could be it. He's a comedian and maybe just didn't quite jive with what Walter Hill was going for, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, because he plays a very straight character in this. He's the butt of comedy, but he doesn't cause any.
It's not a terrible performance. It just seems a little
out
of step with everybody else.
Yeah, it's slightly out of step. It feels a little flat. And look, I've seen a lot of Moranis' stuff, and he's an excellent actor. He can act, and he's great with comedy timing and his characterization of his character in Ghostbusters. Hey Dana, all that was bang on.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He was really good in that too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But it's just something about his character in this that for me doesn't quite feel real. Whereas everybody else in the world feels real, but he feels like he's come through a different dimensional door.
Or maybe that was the idea, that this guy was out of place in this tough world.
Yeah.
So maybe that's that.
Yeah. Well, okay, so that's it for us. We're gonna sign off with that. I'm gonna be back for a weekly roundup, possibly with George if he's available, maybe with Copa Catania, but at the later time of 11 p.m. next Wednesday. So that's UK time, 11 p.m. That's 3 hours later than I normally do it. This is because we're rehearsing. So that's going to be my new Wednesday night roundup time. So I'll come down from doing rehearsals. I'll probably have a bit of a hoarse voice, which is good because that means George can do most of the talking. RTNZ said, yeah, that was Kim Richards. And I mean, God, Kim Richards is banging in that movie. She looks fantastic in that film. She really does. And those hair extensions really work for you. He also saw it. Why did everybody see Howard the Duck twice? That's interesting. All right, so listen, guys, thanks so much for watching, tuning in, and don't forget to join us on Wednesday. I'm not sure what I'm doing next Saturday at the moment. I'm trying to get a guest on for a show, and I'm working on a couple of things, so something might fall into place pretty quickly, or and then there will be, of course, a whole week where there will be nothing on the channel in the evening. Oh, one other thing. On the 20th of April, we've got an industry interview with Alex and Alfie, who run Age Against the Machine. Now, that is the 80s music club in London. Now, even if you're not a Londoner, whether you're one of my American friends who joins the stream, these guys are a riot. You're going to want to check that out. Now, it's going to be on pretty early for most people in America, but it's midday for me because this is the only time these guys are available. So do come and check that out. In the meantime, it's good night from me and it's good night from him. Movie Guy 24. George, thanks for coming on again. I always enjoy your company. And we'll see you all again real soon.